He was ashamed to call him father, ashamed of his torn sandals, ashamed of the faded shirt that had been washed so many times it no longer had a clear color, ashamed of the cracked heels that told stories of dry soil and long days under the sun. But when life stripped him of everything he thought made him important, the only man who stood beside him was the same father he once denied. In a quiet village on the outskirts of Abuja, where red earth clung to bare feet and evenings were filled with the sound of crickets, there lived a widowed farmer named Pa Daniel. Pa Daniel was not a man of many words. He could not read the letters written in English. He could not sign his name without pressing his thumb into an ink pad. But there was one thing he understood perfectly: sacrifice. His wife had died when their son, Chinedu, was only 7 years old. From that day forward, Pa Daniel became both father and mother. He learned to braid his son's hair when he was younger, learned to cook watery soup when food was scarce, learned to wash clothes in the river while other men laughed and called him woman man. He did not answer them. He simply kept working. Every morning before the first rooster crowed, Pa Daniel would rise from his raffia mat, kneel beside his bed, and whisper a short prayer. God, give my son a future greater than mine. Then he would push his old bicycle down the dusty path toward his farm. The bicycle squeaked with every turn of the wheel. Its chain slipped often, but Pa Daniel never complained. Under the scorching sun, he bent over cassava ridges and yam mounds. His palms hardened like tree bark, his back curved slowly with the weight of years. Yet every time someone asked him why he worked so hard at his age, he would smile and say, "My son will go to the university." Chinedu was brilliant. From primary school, teachers noticed it. He spoke English fluently. He solved mathematics problems before others understood the question. When results were announced, his name was always first. Pa Daniel attended every school ceremony wearing his only white shirt. He would sit at the back, clapping louder than anyone else. When Chinedu finished secondary school with outstanding grades, admission came from a university in Abuja. The acceptance letter felt like a golden ticket, but the fees were heavy. That night, Pa Daniel sat outside his mud house, staring at the moon. The land behind the house had belonged to his father. It was the last inheritance he possessed. The next week, he sold half of it. Villagers shook their heads. "You are giving away your future." Pa Daniel replied calmly, "No, I am investing." The day Chinedu left for the city, the entire village gathered. Pa Daniel hugged his son tightly, holding him longer than usual. "Do not forget where you came from," he said softly. Chinedu nodded, excitement burning in his eyes. "I won't, Papa, but the city has a way of reshaping hearts." Abuja was different from the village: tall buildings, shiny cars, students who spoke with accents polished by private schools. Chinedu quickly realized that his background did not match the environment. When classmates asked, "Where are you from?" he answered vaguely, "Just outside the city." When they asked, "What does your father do?" he paused. The first time, he said quietly, "He's a farmer." They exchanged looks. One smirked. The second time, he said, "He's into agriculture." That sounded better. Soon, he stopped mentioning the village entirely. Pa Daniel called often at first. "My son, are you eating?" "Yes, Papa." "Are you studying?" "Yes, Papa." "Do you need anything?" "I'm fine." As months passed, the calls became shorter. Sometimes Chinedu let the phone ring without answering. He would text later, saying he was busy. Pa Daniel did not understand why conversations felt different, but he told himself, "University is stressful." One afternoon, after harvesting a particularly good yield, Pa Daniel decided to surprise his son. He packed dried fish, yam, and palm oil in a woven basket. He wore his cleanest wrapper and polished his old sandals as best as he could. The journey to Abuja took hours. When he arrived at the university gate, everything felt overwhelming. Cars moved quickly, students walked confidently, laughing loudly. Pa Daniel stood awkwardly, clutching his basket. He saw Chinedu from a distance, surrounded by well-dressed friends. With joy filling his chest, he waved. "Chinedu." The sound of his name in that familiar village tone cut through the air. Chinedu turned. For a brief second, happiness crossed his face. Then he saw his friends staring at his father's wrapper, at his bicycle parked near the gate, at the basket. His smile faded. One of his friends whispered, "Who is that old man?" Pa Daniel approached, eyes shining. "My son, I brought you yam. The harvest was good." Chinedu's heart pounded. He could feel his friends watching. "Papa, you should have called first. I wanted to surprise you." His friends were now openly staring. "Is that your dad?" one asked. Chinedu swallowed. "No, He works for us in the village. The words slipped out like poison. Time seemed to freeze. Pa Daniel's hand trembled slightly. He heard it. He understood it. But he forced a smile. Yes, I work in his village, he said quietly, trying to protect his son from embarrassment. Chinedu avoided his eyes. Papa, please, don't come here dressed like this again. The sentence landed heavier than any physical blow. Pa Daniel slowly handed over the basket. I will go now. He turned and walked away without looking back. That evening, in his small dorm room, Chinedu felt uneasy. But he told himself it was necessary. He needed to fit in. Back in the village, Pa Daniel sat alone outside his house long after dark. For the first time since his wife died, he cried. Years passed. Chinedu graduated with honors. He secured a corporate job in a prestigious firm in Abuja. His life changed quickly. He moved into a modern apartment. He bought tailored suits and a car that shone like pride itself. At office gatherings, he spoke confidently. No one there knew about the mud house or the bicycle. When colleagues asked about his family, he kept it brief. My father stays in the village. He rarely visited home. When Pa Daniel called, he often said he was busy. Sometimes he sent money. Pa Daniel would receive the transfer alert and smile proudly at neighbors. My son is doing well. But money does not replace presence. One rainy season, Pa Daniel fell seriously ill. Fever gripped his frail body. Neighbors helped take him to the clinic. He called Chinedu repeatedly. No answer. Finally, a text came. In a meeting. I'll send money. Money arrived. Chinedu did not. Lying on his clinic bed, Pa Daniel stared at the ceiling and whispered, God, keep my son safe. Even in sickness, his prayer remained the same. Meanwhile, in the city, Chinedu's career flourished. Promotions came quickly. He began associating with influential people. He attended parties in expensive hotels. But success built on pride stands on fragile ground. One evening, his company was investigated for financial misconduct. Documents were manipulated. Names were mentioned. Chinedu's manager, desperate to save himself, shifted blame. Chinedu was suspended. Within weeks, he was dismissed. His accounts were frozen pending investigation. His colleagues distanced themselves. Phone calls stopped. Invitations disappeared. The apartment rent expired. The car was repossessed. He sat alone in a half-empty living room, staring at walls that once reflected his success. For the first time in years, silence felt louder than applause. He thought of his father, of the basket of yam, of the sentence he wished he could erase. Shame flooded him. With no money left, he boarded a crowded bus back to the village. The journey felt longer than before. When he arrived, nothing had changed. The same dusty path, the same mango tree near the well. But Pa Daniel looked older, smaller. He was seated outside, sorting cassava. When he looked up and saw his son standing there, thinner and humbled, he did not hesitate. He stood up slowly. Chinedu dropped his bag and fell to his knees. Papa, forgive me. The words came with sobs. Pa Daniel walked toward him. Stand up, my son. I denied you, Chinedu cried. I was ashamed of you. Pa Daniel placed his rough hand on his son's shoulder. A tree does not reject its roots because the branches have grown high. Chinedu wept harder. I lost everything. Pa Daniel shook his head gently. No, you came back. There was no anger in his voice. No accusation. Only love. That night, they ate simple gari and soup together. It tasted better than any city meal Chinedu had ever eaten. In the weeks that followed, Chinedu stayed in the village. He helped on the farm. He woke before sunrise and followed his father to the fields. The work was hard. His hands blistered quickly. But something inside him began to heal. He started noticing details he had once ignored. The strength in his father's bent back, the quiet dignity in his silence, the depth of sacrifice in every scar on his palms. Months later, news came that investigations had cleared his name. He was offered another job, smaller than before but honest. Before returning to the city, he stood before his father. This time, I will never hide you. Pa Daniel smiled. You never needed to. At his new workplace, during an introduction session, someone asked, what does your father do? Chinedu straightened his shoulders. He is a farmer, the strongest man I know. There was no shame in his voice, only pride. From that day forward, he visited home often. He renovated the old mud house but kept the mango tree and the farm intact. Whenever colleagues came to visit, he introduced his father openly. This is the man who built me. And Pa Daniel would smile quietly, knowing that sometimes life must break a man's pride before it restores his heart. Never be ashamed of the hands that raised you. The clothes may be simple, the English may be broken, The shoes may be worn, but behind those hands lies sacrifice deeper than any city success. Because when the world walks away, it is often the same humble parent we once denied who keeps the door open.